Throw my chair at you. I know you're not. All right. Period 2 had debates 1, 2, 3, and 4. The negative team won this one. The positive team, and positive team won the other 3. But you can see that this was pretty close, that was pretty close, and this was pretty close, and this wasn't off by that much. I mean, it's not like, or like, or like, or like, or like, yeah. The fact that everybody in this period was so close to each other, I think is sort of compelling. I thought that everybody did a really good job. This was, I thought, the best prepared period. I thought that the kids in the debate had really thought things out, and so I was really impressed by that. There wasn't anybody who lost for lack of effort, that's for sure. So I actually did print the losers' essays, and there should be 13, well, no, it's not right. There should be like half the class doing loser essays. But I've decided not to do the loser essays for a few reasons. And I kind of felt that overall everybody tried anyway. Debate number 2 may be lopsided. That was the illegal immigration debate. And you can see that, like, very few teams even came close, only in your period. Whereas in 2 periods, they were landslides, and in 2 periods, they were pretty lopsided. And always the positive team. That's discouraging for me. I like to have debates that have an honest chance on both sides. I gotta say that historically, the negative team has won many times. And I think it's sort of interesting that we have sort of like a lot of anti-immigration rhetoric in our media right now. And this is the year that the bias is for the benefits outweigh the cost side. I don't know if it's just a change in our media climate. Maybe I wasn't explicit enough that you're supposed to vote for the better debater, not for the topic you agree with. Maybe you just can't help it, and most of us, by coincidence, this year agreed with one side. I don't know. But there was like a little bit of apparent bias in that one. I had a tie in one of my periods, and I hadn't quite thought in advance how I was going to deal with that. I had a debate where I threw out voting, because they were one-on-one, they were both singleton. So this vote is kind of irrelevant. And then, like in your class, everybody was so evenly matched that I don't know. It just feels like pointless to have a loser debate. So I'm going to waive the loser debate, and everybody gets credit for the same credit for whether you won or lost. What I'm not giving away though is the points for the research. If you didn't put your name and period on your research, you've lost half the assignment. That part's for real, the research part. By the way, look at how polarized period 3 is. That's like my big knucklehead math class. I kind of wonder what that's about. We're trying to understand this. It was pretty raucous. So you guys know that it was kind of a wilder bunch of math kids than this person of math kids. Have we talked about that already? Yeah. I kind of wonder if this isn't like runaway performance in academia. So, everyone want to talk more about the debates, what you like, didn't like, what I should reformat? Yeah.
I think it was more interesting when you were part of the debate, like when you were bringing up your own information that maybe we didn't know about. So I mean, I think that created more of an interesting debate kind of thing between the 2 teams with your information and with the audience. So I think that was a little bit more fun than just kind of like throwing facts at each other.
I went all over the map, but I don't know how to do it right. Because first couple of years, I didn't say anything. Okay, everybody, thanks. Then other students asked for my opinion, and so I would start to like say stuff at the end. Then one year I tried being on both teams. So they'd say something, and I'd walk over to this side and be like, hey guys, what about like blah, blah, blah? And then I was debating both of the teams, and that can be kind of discouraging. Because sometimes students feel like I'm cheating, so to speak.
I think it'd be good to just introduce the topic. Like something that's specific to what they're researching and introduce a topic and then they can debate about it rather than people just kind of throw a whole thing at each other.
Yeah, what I thought I might do in the future is ask the kids to research a topic of illegal immigration, and then have both of the kids play against me, like devil's advocacy style. But I still don't know what, like I'm not sure that gets the right outcomes, because if there isn't something forcing you to do the research, I don't really care like what they're saying or doing. It's tough to balance the motivation, carrot and stick, educational outcomes triangle. So, yeah.
You could just like kind of like direct the debates more. Like, so what about like the economic issues of this? Like, what about the social issues of this? Just like multiple topics, and they like respond to that.
Yeah. I kind of wish that I could ask like 5 questions in the debate.
Yeah.
First, what about this? First. But I think that it's tough to do that fairly. Like anytime I start saying something during the debate, there's always some kids that are like, oh, you did an easy one, or you know that question favors their side. A lot of students really internalize this. Like this is a really emotional moment for them, so they get up here and they're already stressed out and vulnerable and like uptight, and then as they start saying stuff, and like they're just stepping on kids' faces. A lot of kids are just like tough, like intellectually speaking, they're just like whatever, bro. I have to do my thing. But some of the kids really take a step. But yeah, the thing about asking questions, I do like that. I can even just put it in the prompt. We'll discuss economics, crime and law, whatever. What else? Yeah. Play with the wrist. Same time as play with the wrist. Anything else? Overall, a good way to use one of our days in the year? Overall, probably not much really about it, right? I think kind of get old soon. What if we get there? Yeah. Anybody else? By the way, I try to be like, I try really hard to think about both sides of all these issues. So if y'all ever want to debate me, whatever, I'm down. I can take any position for the sake of conversation. All right. I'm glad you all grabbed the winter break reading list when you came in. Please read the intro before you get to the actual list. Then put the paper up there.
So we put all this stuff transportation.
How close to it? Not possible to open?
It would have opened like this much.
It might be Spencer's. He's probably in that short portable right there. I wouldn't be afraid to ask him if he's going to move in the next few hours. It's like, you don't have to move it right now, but you think you can get there in time, you can do it or 2. Just ask him when, and he might be like, yo, I'm just going to do it right now. Tell to me, he's from there. Katie, you talk to me. All right, so kids. you'll see after each title that I have made a little code for you, whether the book is fiction or nonfiction. And the primary appeal, if it's like a naturalism sort of book, a science nerd kind of book, philosophy or cultural commentary kind of books. Finally, I have a 1 through 5 star rating. If a book gets just 1 star, I've taken all those off. So everything on here is at least, so good. That thing about like nature, science nerdiness, philosophy, and culture, I guess that's kind of like the 4 reasons that I read books. So all these books are things I've read that are differing amounts good. If I gave it 5 stars, it's books that I would recommend to like people in the lay public, just books I recommend to my mom or my brother or something. There's one book that's not on the list, and I've decided to offer you credit for it, but I need to discuss that title in person, face to face with witnesses. Another book that I would accept, you may want to write it down, is The Wind-Up Girl. It's a science fiction-ish book that won both of the major science fiction awards in the same year, Hugo and Nebula, which pretty much never happens. It's happened twice, I believe. It's written by a dude with a Portuguese name, like Paulo Degia something. I can't remember his name, so you have to find by the title. The reason I didn't write it down is I'm kind of nervous to recommend it. The reason I'm nervous to recommend it is I have to warn you, it does have brief but slightly disturbing mature themes. The book is about a post-climate change dystopia. So like a very crappy world after climate change. And that's the reason that I think it's relevant to the class. But I'm a little nervous, like I'm afraid some of you, mom and dad, might get pissed that you're reading a book that includes mature content, and I don't want to get in trouble for that. So I have to beg that you please defer to good judgment before you purchase this book. If you think your mommy and daddy would not be okay with it, please don't read it. I don't really like. So there's like sex work and rape in that book. They're not especially graphic or particularly crude, but obviously these are touchy subjects, to put it mildly. You all read literature, like people your age have access to literature that includes topics like this? But yeah, like okay. So like, I don't recommend the book because like you're gonna love the rape scenes. Like, I think that despite of like that mature content, the book has relevancy to our class. I've never wanted to recommend it because I'm kind of like scared to recommend something which has that content. I want to be clear that the reason that it's a spectacular book is because of the post-climate dystopia part. All 4, like it's a very good work of fiction. It's a page turner. It's relatively short. The guy later on wrote a book that was similar post-climate dystopia you've lived, sort of in the Hunger Games genre. Alright. You get your own book, you read it over the holidays, then you come back, and on the first day back at lunch, you take a quiz. You really can't fake it. I gotta warn you that the questions on the quiz, like I've been doing this for years, and you know that I don't make my tests trivial. You have to read it. But it's not like I'm gonna test you on trivia. Like, oh, I can't remember what happened on page 37. That's all right. But it's difficult to get credit if you don't read the book. Yeah. They all have tests. Yeah, I've written the same test for all of them, different sheets for all of them. Anybody else? Yeah. In the past, I've offered more books. Of course, I would recommend that you read as many of those books as you can take, but I'm only going to give you credit to one. You said 15 or 20 minutes. Hi. Can we go into the period, set an alarm or something? Anybody else? Okay. Take out your 6.2 and your 6.3. We're going to finish one and go to the other. Oh, yeah.
I have a math test at first grade, so I hope you can calculate. For one of the other days, possibly do it.
Sure, but you have 40 minutes until it becomes the period.
Oh,
So
I know.
you might be able to squeeze it in there. Students, I forgot to mention about that extra credit. That's like your last gasp before the semester closes on you. Watch. You've got one assignment, one movie, one exam, one final, and that's the semester. If you need extra credit, go next week. Pray for Green Club. But the winter break reading is pretty much like, that's like one of the last. Everybody comes after winter break and goes, wait, the semester's over in 30 seconds? What do I do to improve my grade? And I'm like, yeah, well, the semester's over in 30 seconds. So I want to give you a heads up before it passes that this is like one of your last lifesavers of credit. Now, any questions? Yeah?
How long are those books?
Oh. I don't know. I always kind of chuckle at that question because there's like short books that are really hard to read and long books that are page turn. Page count is
Like how long?
Yeah, Gunner Keeping Steel is kind of a tough read. Some of them are the two Edward Addy books, like Desert Solitaire is super difficult to read because it's like so slow paced and like ethereal. But if you're out in nature, it's spectacular. Monkey Wrench Gang is kind of a page turner, even though it's a lot of pages. Silent Spring is a few pages, but it's really nerdy and old. The Earth First Journal has some good ones and some bad ones. Gun Driven Steel is kind of a grudge, and so is The Collapse. Affluenza gets a little repetitive, but it's kind of interesting cultural stuff. Last American Man's a page turner. Blessed of the Rest is sort of tough to read. Earth Odyssey is endless. Animal Vegetable Miracle is definitely easy to read, so is Prodigal Summer. The two Kurlansky books, if you're a weirdo, they're both excellent. The John Muir books usually are tough for young people to read. Zen of the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance is the heaviest lifting I've ever done in my literary life, hands down. I've tried reading it 4 times and I barely got to the end once, and I still have no idea what's happening. It's like one of the most thought-provoking works of philosophy ever written. And I'm not alone in saying that. Omnivore's Dilemma is pretty easy to read, but it is kind of long. Cadillac Desert is very textbookish. Deadly Feast is not that bad. It's just like a story. It's like investigative reporting. The Arundhati Roy books. Got a small thing that I thought was pretty easy. Ordinary Person's Guide to Empire is sort of like a really, really long New Yorker article. The two Carl Sagan books are very easy to read, but you got to be a science nerd. Tinkering with Eden, it's kind of textbookish. The World Without Us, I'd say it's like a really interesting way to discuss your environmental science textbook. It talks about how the planet's injuries would heal after the absence of humans. So what recovers tomorrow, what recovers next week, what impacts last thousands of years or millions of years. And it basically covers the way that we've impacted Earth systems, all of them. And so it's basically like an environmental science textbook, but organized differently. Okay.
Wait, what about Wonderful?
Oh, I thought it was a really easy read, but I have a weakness for Apocalyptica. I don't really know how other people respond to that one. I've never heard feedback on it. I never recommended it. Did we finish number 43 last time? The 9 reasons that disease is going to get us? 44 is bookish, 45 is straight out of the textbook. And 46 I'd like to talk about a little bit. Okay. 46 gets 2 stars. Major ways to reach zero population growth. I think everybody wonders at some point, how could we actually do something about this? I think that population growth is something we're all afraid of. You might have noticed during the debates that a lot of times people want to talk about how we do it, and no, we shouldn't push the pregnant lady down the stairs. But yes, we all just need education. I'm sure that solves everything. And so I do want to talk a little bit about the 3 major ways. If you did your homework, you know age of first childbearing, birth control, and national programs. So I think that overall, the most globally doable way, which comes naturally anyway, is the first one. As societies develop, women have other things to do when they are young. It's pretty much guaranteed that, are you copying words, bro? Connor, copy cell phone? No? You doing work off your cell phone? Homework? Another class? For my class? For what class? You my homework with your 8th book? That's so bad. Jackson, like, I know that you'd be frustrated that you didn't do it at home in the first place. I know that he would feel ripped off if you were doing my work in his class. So please put away your cell phone, you know, work on your fish work. As nations modernize, women have other stuff to do. They wait longer, birth rates plummet right away. It's a natural consequence of demographic transition. It happens. This thing. birth rates come down, then the green line's going up. There's other stuff to do. That is probably the most universally applicable, the most predictable, the most religiously sensitive, the most culturally sensitive, the least complicated. Like you just, if there's other stuff in the option pool, birth rates go down. When we talk about birth control and education for birth control, I hope everybody understands nobody needs education about how to make babies. None of us decides how many children we will have because we don't know what's happening with resource issues globally. That's just not how we decide. You don't educate people about how many kids to have by scaring them off about population issues. Does anybody know what we actually mean when we mean birth control education? It's also not instructions. Like you can read about how often to take pills, and you can read, or everybody else that uses cucumber. Like, you don't need instructions for, education is not instructions for birth control pills and condoms. What do we mean when we say education for birth control? I doubt it. Maybe, but that's basically just like, yo guys, the store's open, they got a rubber now. What do we mean by education? So, in many parts of the world, a lot of women haven't heard, by the way, a lot of you women haven't heard, that there are parts of your cycle when you are more fertile, less fertile, and non-viable. Are you aware of that? One big part is talking about like the sine wave of your cycle and then when you're most fertile and least fertile during that cycle. Another thing is, a lot of women don't know that breastfeeding helps suppress ovulation if you're breastfeeding frequently. How many of you have heard that? Can we talk about it this time?
Yeah.
So, when we say education about birth control, sure, there's the distribution issue, like getting the stuff out there and being like, yo, the store's open. Or like, hey, there's these things, like. But in many cases, it's difficult to get those out there. Like the distribution issue, the material goods problem is still an issue. So there's like really simple stuff you can do about the breastfeeding thing and about the natural cycle thing, which isn't 100% effective, but at least it's better than nothing. Finally, remember the national programs, you can use economic incentives or penalties. Does everybody know the difference? It's like, oh, you got a small family, I'll pay for college, or government gives you free healthcare for families of a certain size. You can go into a different tax bracket if the family is too big. You might not get free maternity leave if your family is for the third child, no more maternity leave. So we just offer like a different set of government services, carrots and sticks, depending on the size of your family, incentives and penalties. All right. Anybody want to talk more about demographics? Because I kind of want to move on. 6.3 vocab. There's like a zillion words. vocab questions? Yes?
All of the vocab ones that said some of these would be defined as that.
Like what? I don't have my list here.
Mutagen, teratogen, allergen.
Okay. A mutagen causes mutations. A teratogen, developmental problems. A carcinogen, cancer. An allergen, allergies.
What was the word called?
Here we go. Carcinogen, cancer. Mutagen, mutation. Teratogen, developmental stuff. Allergen, allergy. Did I get all four? Anybody else? Other vocab? Yeah. Air pollution skips certain latitudes if it reaches high altitude wind. Yeah. Yeah. You might imagine that air pollution stays around your city the way that a fart might follow you in a small room. But imagine if I farted, it went high up along the ceiling and fell on Cole Creedon. First of all, that would be glorious. Second of all, that would be the grasshopper effect. There are high altitude winds. Y'all heard the jet stream? Have you ever seen like when a rocket takes off at Vandenberg Air Force Base? Sometimes it'll leave like a smoke trail, and some part of the smoke trail will like shear sideways. It's like still smoke, still smoke, still smoke. It's like it got blown over there, and then it keeps going still. You ever seen that? Or been in like a place where there's like little puffy clouds low, and then up high there's like fast, streaky, shearing clouds? That's because there's wind up there that's separate from this wind. So if I could get my air pollution up high, it would deliver that air pollution where there's another air sail. And I could get my fart to skip some people and grasshopper jump over to Cole Creedon. But you wish we could do that? I mean, not necessarily at Cole, that would be mean. But you know, like at Lily. Yes.
Is that like how we get some of Beijing's air pollution?
It's funny that you mentioned that actually we get Beijing's air pollution because of low altitude wind. It rides the ocean. But that is how Inuits in the Arctic Circle get all of the industrial pollution from Michigan. Yeah. Okay. Before we do that, I have to define the threshold effect. And to define the threshold effect, I want somebody to answer my warm-up. Yeah.
All substances at certain concentrations can be beneficial and having stored in these toxic.
Did everybody hear what Martin said? Some people did not. Try it louder. Be like me. Basically, you're yelling.
Substances
That's not yelling.
in
Come on, lightweight. Yell. You got this.
no, wait,
Nice guy.
substances in certain quantities, if they're in high concentrations, they can be toxic to the body. But if they're in low concentrations, they can have no effect.
This implies that there's like a threshold, right? Where like, yeah, it's bad for you, but you haven't had enough yet. Or like, whoa, 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 you've gone past the limit. It used to be good for you, but now it's too much water. Have you ever heard that some poor lady was trying to win her kid a weed?
Oh god, yeah.
She went to a radio station and she drank so much water that she died from water. Like clean drinking water, like bottled drinking water.
Why did you drink so much water?
Because it was called Hold Your Wee to Win a Wee. And like a contest, like chug water and then don't have to go pee. And this lady was like, I'm gonna win. I'm doing this for my little boy Mark or whatever. And so the lady goes on some radio show and like the announcers were like, oh my god, she's 3 gallons down, but so's Martin. And then like, okay, Martin has to go pee. Everybody, Martin has to go pee. Ty wins. And that goes like, oh, I'm feeling so good. And I guess she had too much water, and like there's a thing where too much water, it's like not enough salt, and you don't have nervous impulses, your heart stops.
Oh my god.
Wait, 3 gallons filled.
I don't know how much it was, but it was too much water.
Distributed.
Jesus.
Somebody's might be
And like, you can have too much, obviously, of anything, right? Like, I think everybody understands that threshold concept, but we often forget it, and that's one of my pet peeves. Have you all heard that thing where people say, but no, that's toxic? Like, do you all realize that everything is toxic if you have enough? So it's pointless to say that something is toxic. The real question is, how much am I getting? You understand what I mean? The dosage response curve? You can all go home. and have like a teeny little bit of crystal methamphetamine. It's a little tiny bit. I mean like a really little bit, and you'll be fine. You won't get buzzed, you won't be a tweaker for life, your teeth won't fall out, you won't get speed bumps. People on that scratch themselves until they get skin tolerant. You can get cheese. Yeah, speed bumps. I smoked a cigarette once. I don't think it's going to kill me. Because you know, how much? LD50 is a way of figuring out how much it takes for something to be lethal. Lethal dose to 50% of the population. Does anybody know why we wait until it's a lethal dose to 50% of the population? Like if you're all rats and I want to find out how much Coca-Cola it takes to kill a rat, because that means if I've killed half the people but not the other half, I figured out just what was lethal for half, for 50% for the average. Everybody's either going to be above or below average, so you found the average when you killed off exactly half. Does that make sense to everybody? LD50? What? You dose them until they die. So if you were rats and I wanted to know how much Coca-Cola, I start cranking up the dosage of Coca-Cola. And imagine that I were to give him 1 can of Coca-Cola and he dies, but all of you could survive 1 can of Coca-Cola. Is 1 can of Coca-Cola the lethal dose? He might just be a weakling of some sort, right? He could have a genetic fluke that makes him allergic to Coca-Cola, right? And if I crank up your dosage so all of you have had 2 cans, not the first, but like 2 cans of Coca-Cola, and now Scripter also dies, well, is that the lethal dose of Coca-Cola? Maybe she just had a cold, or maybe she was more like him than like the rest of you, right? So if we crank it up to 3 cans, and 6 people have died, that's still not necessarily a lethal dose, because most of you could survive 3 cans. So 3 cans could not be the lethal dose, right? We use LD50, the measure of what it takes lethal dose 50%, so that we figure out, well, everybody's either above or below average, so when I've killed off half the students, that means the other half to survive it, that's got to be where the everybody's above or below 50% mark. Okay? Half. Effective dose 50, and what toxic dose 50. Lethal dose, effective dose, toxic dose. Probably 50, ED 50, TD 50.
What is this toxic dose? What exactly does it mean by that? Because effective dose is when it causes some effect.
So effect is usually the sought after effect. Toxic is a deleterious effect. So for example, there's an effective dose for Tylenol, and then there's a toxic dose for Tylenol. So we got to keep your dosage between the ED50 and the TD50. We don't want to even mess with the LD50. Yeah.
The LD50 kind of something that's being disputed right now for lethal injection and things. Is that from?
Whoa. So lethal injection, we want LD100.
No, but that.
What?
So we just know that.
That's the whole point. We want to avoid anything less than LD100. Because God forbid we give someone a non-lethal dose when we're trying to kill them. I find this a really interesting topic, but we might be missing the point. You understand what I'm saying about LD100? Cool. Other outcome I can help you with? There's a lot in there.
Acute and chronic effects.
So acute is something that like you definitely have it or you definitely don't. Chronic effects are like things that just kind of come back and forth. Like my arthritis when I broke my thumb, it's brutal. Like if I think about it, it's like, oh, I haven't really noticed, but yeah, I guess my thumb is kind of achy right now. That's a chronic effect. Where it's kind of like, it smells like burning hair. Does it not smell like burning hair? You smell that too. Somebody playing with a lighter? Turn an electrical fire?
All the vents connected to that well, is they use torches or
Maybe. Maybe Colton wore out his iPhone. Where were we? Yeah, do you understand? Acute and chronic? acute is like a distinct symptom. It's like, oh, bro, that bone's broken. Or like, oh, I got like some nasty stomach right now, but like maybe it's better tomorrow. Like,
So it's like you can't really tell.
yeah, chronic effects come and go. It's like, you know, you get it again, you'll get it again, you get it again. You know, like malaria gives you a chronic effect. Like you'll never perfectly cure, you'll get some symptoms when you're stressed out. Cold sores, like which by the way almost everybody on the planet has, like that's like a chronic effect illness. What else? Yeah. Bioremediation is when a living thing solves a problem. Phytoremediation is when it's a plant. And by the way, mycoremediation is when you use a mushroom to solve a problem. Because mushrooms absorb radioactive stuff out of soil. Mushrooms are used to accelerate decomposition of carbon content. They're also used to preferentially absorb radioactive heavy metals. Mycoremediation, the mushrooms solve the problem. Come on. Yes. Oh, I'm so glad you asked. That's a really big book. Please look up. This is methane, CH4. That's natural gas. It's about 95% of what's in your stove. You know what I mean? Like your like the gas lanes in our city. That's methane. CH4. 1 carbon, 4 hydrogens. Sort of like a square kind of Pringle chip shape. Like a Pringle chip. Like 4 hydrogens that are kind of like that. Okay? That's stable. Please look up. If the carbon is missing one of the hydrogens, it's sticky. It's called a methyl group. And methylation is when you stick a methyl group to something. Methylation is when you stick a CH3 onto another chemical.
So it's like
Methylation.
methane loses a hydrogen and bonds.
Yeah. Methylation is when a CH3 gets stuck to something. It has lost a hydrogen, so it's clingy. It's desperate. It wants to fill that empty void. You understand desperate clinginess. You're in high school. Ow. Now, there's one case where this is very relevant in our current unit. Has everybody here heard that mercury is bad for you? If you have enough of it can lead to cancer. Have you all heard that cancer, by the way, is in your reproductive systems at times? So we want to avoid mercury, right? Here's a fun fact that a lot of you may not have heard. That's not true for all mercury. As a matter of fact, if you could get elemental mercury, like atomically pure mercury, you could have like a gigantic ball of perfectly pure elemental mercury with nothing bonded to it. You could play with it. You could swallow it. Because it's liquid at room temperature, it would work its way right on through, and you'd go clink in the toilet, and nothing would happen. You'd be totally fine. No problem. I guarantee it. You could. Shouldn't try this at home though, but yes you could. Case study you read was in Minamata Bay, Japan, where they dumped a whole bunch of mercury into a bay, and the entire community for miles had extremely deleterious illnesses, birth deformities, and cancers. Didn't I just say that you're allowed to eat mercury? If nothing is bonded to it, it's inorganic, it's elemental, your body doesn't even see it's there. It's like, what are you doing here? Okay, bye. Like if you swallow a marble, if you swallow a marble, you're not going to digest that. Your cells aren't going to absorb that. You're not going to like stack up all that glass in your body somewhere. You just crap out the marble. And your body's like, wait, what the? Okay, bye. Like a speaker graduation. Kids these days, I can't believe that more people don't speak at graduation. It's such like
There's only been one in the past few years.
Channing Peak. Hope he's out there somewhere. Love that guy. When you methylate mercury, that's when it's bad for you. The mercury that was dumped in the Minamata Bay, bacterial decomposition in the wetland, estuary, bog, shallow water, decompose, there's a lot of bacteria. Bacteria do absorb this and stick carbon groups to it. Methylated mercury is a really scary problem. The reason you shouldn't swallow a huge pill of elemental mercury is a little tiny bit might be methylated, and if it is, your cells are stupid. We evolved in an environment where carbon was rare, so our cells, they're not on the lookout to keep out bad stuff. There wasn't that much bad stuff for your cells to worry about. Think about it. Remember what I said about the evolutionary environment? 12 to 17, group of small people out wandering in nature, eating a few things that were mostly raw or slightly charred, right? Your body didn't have to be that picky. It doesn't have like defense mechanisms to be afraid of foods. As a matter of fact, the opposite is true. The reason that you love sugars and fats is because they're very rare in nature. So your body's giving you a reward system to make sure you consume those. That's why it feels good. It's like, oh, sugar, I love sugar and fat, Kit Kat bar. This, to your stupid cells, looks useful because it has carbon. So methyl mercury is the one that's deadly. Mercury is kind of irrelevant. Questions? Other vocab? Other vocab? No other vocab? Does anybody know what a hormonally active agent is? It's the frog thing. What is a hormonally active agent? Is it a hormone? It messes with your hormones. How does it mess with your hormones? Yes? Kind of. Kind of. Kind of. Remember that your cells are stupid. In the environment where you evolved, you either have hormones or you don't have hormones, or which hormones you have, that's all there is to it. Your cells are built to respond to hormones. What if you eat something which looks like a hormone? In the chemical sense, it has the bonding sites. You know, you have bonding sites, like Velcro. Sticky in the hook side, like the furry side and the hook side, Velcro sticks together. Bonding sites, some chemicals stick to each other like Velcro. Your cells have bonding site for hormones. What if something by coincidence looks like a hormone? Your cells aren't evolved to resist it. Has anybody heard that you can't have too much soy? Nowadays we worry about people eating too much soy. I mean, what happens?
Men get tits. Isn't estrogen.
I wouldn't have said it quite so elegantly, but I think you all know what we're talking about. I mean, it's more or less right.
Why doesn't he know that?
Because Amin's been eating all the soy he can get so he can stay home forever. I would too, bro. You're on the right road. You're on the right road. Soon enough. Soy has what's called phytoestrogen. It's not actually estrogen. It's a plant chemical that to our stupid mammal cells looks kind of like estrogen. So if you just eat enough soy, your cells are like, wait, that's estrogen. That's a lot of estrogen. I'm a woman! And your cells are like, what's going on? Okay. So boys, you can dare to dream. It's a lot of soy. Start today.
Have you been trying to visit?
I have. It's my retirement plan. I'll retire that day. I can overlook some problems. I can overlook some problems. Oh, 48. 49, 50, 51. I don't know, anybody have questions between 48 and 51? Because when we show up on Monday, I really want to start on 52. I want to make sure that I answer all of your questions on 48 to 51 before the weekend.
49.
You want to know how to do these formulas? Okay, look. Everything is based on the percent. If you can remember percent, you can do the rest. How do you translate 5% to a decimal? What?
0.05.
But how did you do that?
It's 5 out of 100.
It's 5 over 100, right? Move the decimal to the left twice, because it's 5 out of 100. I want everybody to please remember what you already know. Hold on, I can help you. Give me 1 minute. Watch. 5% equals 0.05 because it equals 5 over 100. Everybody knows that, right? So watch. 5 parts per million is 5 over a million,
So it's like a fraction of a percent.
right? So it's just moving the decimal not twice, but 6 times. So from that 5, you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Fill in the zeros, and that is 5 parts per million. If you wanted to make it into a percent, you would just go the other way a couple zeros, and it's that much percent. Again, I'm just using what you already know about percents and hundreds, right? Look, per billion is 3 more zeros, so you would move it over 3 more times.
Wait, how did you get 3 zeros in front of the 5?
I can help you.
So you have
Yeah, I'm not
to start, so,
Okay, thanks, buddy.
so,
Yeah. Yeah, girl? Yeah, all right, they're over there. Thanks for being ready. What?